Hello, and welcome to Resilience Radio bonus episodes. I'm your host, as usual, Irvin Eisenberg. I am owner of Resilience Occupational Therapy and creator of this show. I am diligently working on Season 2 of this show, and Season 1 has just wrapped up. I wanted to, while you wait, give you some material to listen to. So what we have is bonus questions from previous episodes. This week's bonus episode goes back to Lizzie Pope from episode 7 when she was talking about intuitive eating. And I talked with her a little bit about the Paleo Diet, ketosis, and stress's relationship to intuitive eating. Could you speak a little bit to ketosis and whether seeking ketosis and sort of the Paleo Diet is a good idea, and under what circumstances you would or would not recommend seeking that?
I would only recommend ketosis for one set of circumstances, and that's for people that have epileptic seizures. That's the only evidence that we have that ketosis and eating in a way that drives you into ketosis is positive, like for long-term health. So for everyone else who doesn't have seizures, I would not recommend ketosis because it doesn't follow my take-home message of nutrition, which is fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. In fact, it's the absolute opposite of that. And I find it completely hilarious that we've decided, and a lot of medical professionals think ketosis is like the way forward, that we've decided this when, like, for many years, meat and fat were villainized. But now all of a sudden, it's going to be like the savior. And I'm so deeply skeptical. And I think it's not how our body wants to work. Our body was not designed to sit in ketosis all day. Our brains do not function at their highest level when we are in ketosis. Your brain wants to run on glucose. So when we don't have glucose, our brain, yes, you can adapt. Yes, you will still feed your brain. Yes, I get all of that. But it's just, to me, it's like so stressful to think that your body is going to be in ketosis at all times. And it feels like the biggest fad diet of all the fad diets. And I get so frustrated when I have to think about it, honestly, and defend against it. But, you know, there is some evidence that, like, you'll lose weight, you'll have better glucose control or something like that. But what I would say to that is, like, do we have evidence that 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, eating this way has actually led to better health? And so until I see that evidence, I'm skeptical.
Thank you.
Paleo is a little different. I don't endorse that either, but it's not as egregious.
Did you want to speak to that a little bit, or it sort of goes in the category of other diets in general for you?
Yeah, it is. But paleo is just paleo to me is just a marketing thing, because first of all, there's evidence that Paleolithic times, depending on what continent you were at, you're actually eating a lot of carb heavy foods, which are not included in that much of the paleo diet. So, like, that aside, if we're going to take the paleo diet for what it is marketed as, I mean, I guess, but it just feels like a completely restrictive fad diet that I'm not really sure why you would follow unless you want to lose weight in a very restrictive way. And I don't think it's helping anyone develop a long-term healthy relationship with food. And we have even less evidence for the paleo diet than there is for the keto diet. It's actually very interesting, like, what science and the medical establishment choose to study versus, like, what they really don't. Like, which fad diets they just let pass through, and then which ones they're like, oh, this is the answer to the problem, and we'll study it. So paleo, I haven't seen that much evidence around.
Well, thank you for speaking to those. Something that that personally interests me, sort of thinking about stress and diet. I'm wondering, and I'm sort of this is just sort of my brainstorming on what some of these things might be. It seems like when we're in a stressful situation, our body. I mean, I'm thinking about the soldiers that needed the fat, sugars, and salts. They're I'm wondering if when we're in that stressful situation, are we able to sort of process both mentally and sort of in whatever capacity, process the more nuanced sense of taste of what our body needs, or we're just seeking those sort of more basic nutrients, sort of in more of like a cortisone fight or flight state. And that it makes me wonder if someone is stressed in a high degree of anxiety, can they eat healthy? Like, could a intuitive diet actually work for someone who's in a highly aroused state?
Yeah, I think it's hard when we have a high allostatic load to recognize their body's hunger and fullness cues. I know for some people, when they are really stressed, like they don't feel hungry at all. So then they're not able to respond, even though their body needs nourishment. And some people, when they're in highly stressed, they eat a lot because that's like a coping mechanism. So I think that if you're in a highly stressed state, it's difficult to do intuitive eating, but one of the principles of intuitive eating is cope with your emotions kindly. And why that's in there is kind of to address this emotional eating idea that we have, which is that, sometimes people turn to food for comfort or in times of stress for comfort. And it's actually not inherently bad to do that for a period of time. Like if something happens at work and you're stressed about it and you come home and you need to just like eat some whatever your favorite food is to feel good about what that acute event, that in and of itself might not be bad, but do you have any other coping mechanisms to help you through your stressful event? And that's what you'd want to see people build. So it's not that you can't use food in times of stress as a comfort, but what are your other coping mechanisms? And building those up to help you, because the food's not going to fix the feeling. Like it may mask it for the moment, but it's not going to fix that feeling of stress over time. In other situations where you have kind of this chronic stress, it's thinking about what's causing that and kind of addressing that so that you can have a better relationship with food and your body, because living in chronic stress is, detrimental in so many ways. I'm sure you deal with patients that are seeking out your health services because of chronic stress, and like trying to address patients and help them like reduce their overall stress. It's so important, and it's important for your eating behaviors too. I'm not sure that, for intuitive eating, you do have to work on some of your stress. I mean, that's literally one of the principles is like figure out your coping mechanisms.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this bonus material. If so, share it with a friend and subscribe via the podcatcher of your choice. While you're there, you can always leave a 5-star review, and that really does help out quite a bit. You've been listening to Resilience Radio bonus material. Take care.